Right on the threshold of the global sports festival World Cup 2026, there are countless rare events that have never happened in any other World Cup, now appearing right before our eyes, highlighting the peak cultural conflict that makes the local community rebel and boycott the tournament. My dear friends, I am your familiar host. Today I bring you a news bulletin unlike any previous bulletin. We often think of football with echoing cheers and colorful stadiums. We think of top-class goals and tears bursting with happiness. But behind that brilliant halo is a terrifying dark side slowly swallowing the peace of the host cities. To organize a worldwide sports festival World Cup 2026 is an extremely complex issue requiring careful preparation, yet right before the opening day, a deeply painful problem is unfolding. A bloodless riot is breaking out right in the heart of the most developed nations in the world. I want you to imagine an incredibly authentic and sharp picture of what is truly happening right now. Three countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, have joined hands to organize a super tournament featuring 48 national teams, a massive number never seen before in human history. This should have been a massive pride, a golden opportunity to promote culture and boost the economy. However, what millions of local residents are enduring is the exact opposite. They are being pushed to the edges of their own daily lives. I have witnessed firsthand the secret reports and the unreleased footage never broadcast on major television networks. Bustling streets are now blockaded by cold iron fences. Quiet residential areas have suddenly become noisy and dusty, massive construction sites. Ordinary working citizens are banned from selling goods on the very sidewalks they have been attached to for so many years, simply because of the strict image copyright regulations of the World Football Federation. Outrage is boiling in every vein of the local people. And do you know what the absolute worst part is? It is the trampling of indigenous cultural values. Football is inherently a sport of the masses, a religion connecting billions of hearts. But now it is being turned into a giant money printing machine, a tool of the financial tycoons. The local people are feeling betrayed right in their own homeland. They have to pay massive taxes to build magnificent stadiums, but do not have enough money to buy a ticket to watch a match. Exclusive zones for international fans are springing up like mushrooms equipped with the most luxurious amenities, while the public transportation system serving the people is overloaded and severely degraded. I feel the ultimate resentment of a father who cannot take his child to school on time because the streets are blocked to make way for the escort convoys of high-ranking officials. I hear the desperate screams of small shop owners forced to close because they do not have a license to sell tournament-related merchandise. Human patience has its limits, and that limit has been shattered. An unprecedentedly strong wave of protests is sweeping through the host cities. It is not just peaceful protests with banners or slogans. The outrage has escalated into tense clashes. Local community groups have united together to form a unified front to protect their living spaces and traditional cultural values. They block the vital arterial roads leading to the stadium. They boycott the official sponsors of the tournament. They raise black flags showing the mourning of a culture being suffocated by commercial football reeking of money. For the first time in history, we witness a World Cup being shunned and bitterly rejected by the hosts themselves. The festive atmosphere is now replaced by a stifling and tense atmosphere like a string about to break. Can the biggest football festival on the planet go smoothly when the fire of hatred is burning brightly in the hearts of the locals? This is a ticking time bomb that could obliterate all efforts of the organizing committee at any moment. We must look straight into this cruel truth. Do not let the glamorous media campaigns obscure the cries of injustice. Football cannot exist independently when detached from the community. If a large-scale tournament is organized but blatantly strips away livelihoods and tramples on the basic freedoms of indigenous residents, then that glory is completely meaningless. I will take you deep into the eye of the storm of this unprecedented crisis to find the answer. To understand the root of the earthquake shaking the World Cup 2026, we must turn back the wheel of time and turn over the glorious but also darkly stained pages of history from previous tournaments. You know the outrage does not just erupt so fiercely and organically out of nowhere. The local people in North America right now are not blind. They have seen the bloody lessons from the past, the wounds that have never healed on the bodies of the nations that previously hosted. Once upon a time, the title of World Cup host was a priceless pride, a sparkling gold medal that every nation desired. But hidden behind that medal, its reverse side is razor sharp, ready to slash the livelihoods of millions of voiceless people. I will tell you about the ghosts of the past, the truths that the World Football Federation always wants to bury under perfect media covers. Remember the 2002 World Cup in South Korea and Japan, or the brilliant festival in Germany in 2006? Those are the perfect models that the organizing committee always brings out to lull the public to sleep. At that time, football was truly a magical bridge, connecting millions of hearts, bringing a massive economic boost, and elevating the national status. People were intoxicated with victory. The squares were filled with flags and flowers, the warm embraces between complete strangers. That was the brightest halo, a sweet medicine that made nations believe that simply bringing the World Cup home would immediately open an era of prosperity. But the harsh truth always hides just behind the stage lights. While economic superpowers can easily absorb the massive workload for many other countries hosting the World Cup, turns into a cruel death sentence for the local economy and culture. You certainly have not forgotten the disasters named South Africa 2010 and Brazil 2014. I use the word disaster without any exaggeration at all. In South Africa, billions of dollars were thrown out the window to build magnificent super stadiums right in the middle of extremely impoverished slums. When the football festival passed, those giant stadiums quickly became colossal. White elephants abandoned, rusting, consuming millions of dollars each year for maintenance, while the surrounding people still did not have enough clean water. Even more brutal was the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, the kingdom of football. To pave the way for the tournament, the government leveled countless poor neighborhoods, pushing tens of thousands of families onto the streets without mercy. The distinctive street culture, the traditional markets were completely wiped out to make way for luxury parking lots serving international guests. I still clearly remember the image of children sobbing under the rubble of their own homes while a few miles away fireworks were illuminating the sky. It does not stop there. The cultural imposition from the outside is the truly fatal stab. When the World Cup takes place, the laws of the host nation are suddenly bent to serve global sponsors. Giant beer brands force the government to change the law, prohibiting the sale of alcoholic beverages inside the stadiums. Monopolistic fast food corporations forbid local people from selling traditional dishes around the match areas. Unique cultural identity is overshadowed, forced to step aside for rigid and soulless consumer culture. Artisans and small traders suddenly become criminals right on their homeland just because they violated the so-called image rights of the World Football Federation. The past has clearly proven that under the guise of globalization, indigenous cultural beauties are being mercilessly destroyed. And now the wheel of history has rolled to 2026. North America, the land of freedom and cultural diversity, is facing a massive storm never before seen in history. The people in the United States, Canada, and Mexico have seen through this deadly trap. They have watched the agonizing footage from Brazil, from South Africa, from countless victims of the giant machine named World Cup. They do not want their cities to become soulless copies. They do not want the bustling local streets to be cleared out to please passing tourists. Conflict breaking out is an inevitable certainty. When the halo of the king of sports no longer has the power to cover up the dark corners, when the promises of economic development are just deceptive illusions, the resistance of the people is the straw that breaks the camel's back. The strikes, the echoing shouts of fierce protests are creating a symphony of outrage. They stand up because they know that if they remain silent now, they will lose everything. The past is a cruel mirror reflecting exactly what is brewing right before the tournament. The organizers have severely underestimated the self-esteem and the cultural protection power of the local communities. The arrogance of the authorities is paying a very expensive price. And now we will dive deep into the epicenter of the fury where the smoldering conflicts have officially erupted into a life or death battle between a giant money-making machine on one side and the vulnerable people desperately protecting their last living spaces on the other. I assure you that these are no longer isolated frictions, but a systematic cultural suppression on an unprecedented scale. The real reason that makes the fire of outrage burn so fiercely is the emergence of the commercial exclusive zone concept. This is an incredibly cruel term that the organizing committee imposes on the host cities to scrape every penny from the fans. Within a radius of many kilometers around the super stadiums, all free business activities of local people are completely eradicated under the power of batons and shields. The traditional food carts smelling wonderfully on street corners are now mercilessly cleared away by armed police. Small restaurants carrying a strong local cultural style are forced to stop serving or have their business licenses revoked immediately simply because they do not sell the products of the official sponsors. This commercial dictatorship has directly stripped away the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of poor working families, pushing them into a dead end. But that is only the tip of the iceberg, my dear sports fans. What is even more terrifying is the campaign to purge living spaces happening ruthlessly under the guise of high-speed urban beautification. To create a perfectly glamorous image in the eyes of tourists and billions of international television viewers, city authorities have joined hands with real estate tycoons to acquire land indiscriminately. Historic neighborhoods, carrying the rich cultural identity of the working class community, are rapidly completely cleared out. Rent prices skyrocket to unimaginable levels over a single night, causing residents who have been attached to their neighborhood for a lifetime to be thrown out onto the street in tears. They are thrown into dilapidated temporary settlements in the distant suburbs to make room for five-star hotels and luxurious entertainment complexes serving exclusively the football elite. This is a blatant deprivation of human rights and the right to live peacefully in one's own homeland. Football should have brought everyone closer together, but now it has turned into a sharp blade dividing society, deepening the gap between the rich and the poor, and creating ultimate, unpardonable injustices. Ladies and gentlemen, the climax of this bulletin does not stop there because the core factor pushing the conflict to its peak is that the ruling class has trampled on the pride and unique cultural heritage of each locality. We all know the three co-hosting nations possess incredibly diverse and passionate street cultures. However, the globalization managers want to level everything, turning everything into a bland and soulless commercial mode. They issue absurdly extreme bans on street art, music traditions, and masquerade festivals around the match areas. They want to wipe clean all sacred local marks to make space for giant electronic billboards flashing soulless luxury brands. The people feel their national identity is heavily insulted and turned into a joke. They do not accept their ancestors' cultural heritage being turned into a cheap commodity to serve the bottomless pockets of a minority interest group. The repressed frustration building up day by day reaches its absolute limit, and then it explodes into a tsunami of violence, sweeping away all security barriers. This is the exact moment we witness a spectacular reversal of a historic story. The powerless people whom the organizers thought could be easily crushed by the power of money have now awakened and stood up to resist strongly with blood and tears. They no longer accept being silent victims waiting for judgment. Local labor unions, small business associations, and social activists have united into an unprecedented block of power shaking the upper class. They use the most advanced digital platforms to expose the dark corners and dirty secret deals of the tycoons. Tens of thousands of people pour into the streets, blocking giant convoys of construction materials. They create solid human shields to protect their neighborhoods from excavators and destructive cranes. They organize amateur football tournaments right on the burning asphalt roads to assert an undeniable truth that football truly belongs to the people and not to cold-blooded capitalist corporations. And my friends, a shocking piece of information has just been leaked from deep inside the data center of the organizing committee. Anonymous hacker groups outraged by the injustice have taken down the smart ticketing control system and threatened to release all secret evidence of corruption related to billion-dollar infrastructure projects. This grand battle has now spread from the streets straight into the brutal cyberspace. The biggest football festival on the planet is facing the danger of complete collapse as a series of multinational sponsors begin to panic and look for ways to withdraw due to the fear of the devastating boycott power of global consumers. The absolute worst case disaster scenario is materializing right before the eyes of the arrogant organizers. The supreme power is slowly slipping out of the hands of commercial dictators and directly threatening the survival of the tournament. This cultural conflict is not just a struggle to reclaim vital economic rights, but it has transformed into a holy war to protect the soul and supreme dignity of a vast community. This entire naked truth will certainly shock the sports world and make us rethink the true price of those sparkling golden trophies. Dear sports fans, when we stand at the abyss of collapse, when the fire of outrage has burned all the way to the doors of football management headquarters, we cannot just stand by with folded arms watching everything burn to ashes. The outrage of the local people is entirely justified, and this is the time the organizers must awaken to find an immediate remedy. Without urgent and sincere intervention actions, this World Cup will forever be engraved in history as the darkest stain. The first and most vital solution is the immediate removal of the cruel commercial exclusive zone system. The World Football Federation must make concessions and immediately amend the contract terms with giant sponsors. They must throw wide open the doors of public spaces, returning the streets and sidewalks to independent workers. The colorful street food carts, the small shops carrying local flavors must be allowed to operate parallel to global brands. This is not a weak concession, but a wise strategy to integrate the strength of local culture right into the tournament experience. International tourists do not just come here to watch football, they crave to be immersed in the true rhythm of the host city. Next, the city authorities must immediately launch an emergency law to control rent prices and absolutely prevent the indiscriminate eviction of innocent people. It is unacceptable for a sports festival to be built upon the tears of homelessness among the poor. A massive compensation fund must be extracted directly from television broadcasting revenues to support families affected by the mega construction projects. Instead of pouring billions of dollars into five-star hotels that serve for merely 1 month, this massive cash flow must be poured right back to renovate the public transportation infrastructure directly serving the people after the tournament ends. Major contractors must sign transparent commitments regarding the use of the local labor force, ensuring fair wages and safe working conditions. A tournament is only truly successful when it leaves behind sustainable material legacies for the city rather than soulless concrete blocks and massive debts weighing heavily on the shoulders of future generations. The outrage of the community will immediately be soothed, if they truly see the money from football flowing into building schools, hospitals, and green parks right inside their own neighborhoods. Alongside economic and living space solutions, the problem of respecting local culture must be placed at the highest priority. The organizing committee cannot continue using batons and shields to silence dissenting voices. Instead, a massive roundtable negotiation must be established right in the center of the storm. The ruling class must sit down for direct and equal dialogue with union leaders, social activists, and representatives of local residents. They must turn the protesting crowds into the most important, strategic partners of the tournament. Give them the right to self-determination in organizing street art and cultural events running parallel with the official matches. Instead of banning, let us honor the beauty of local art. Street artists and traditional musicians must be paid handsomely to perform at fan zones, creating a truly diverse and emotionally explosive, festive atmosphere. The perfect combination of elite football and the rich cultural heritage of North America will be the golden key to dissolve all hatred, transforming tense confrontations into the most beautiful and memorable cultural crossover in the five-dot loan. History of the King of Sports. Finally, the most powerful solution is absolute transparency to regain lost trust. The organizing committee needs to immediately publish all bidding documents, all revenue and expenditure records, and break the information monopoly that has caused endless controversy. The transparency of cash flows will crush all suspicions about corruption and localized interest groups. Sports leaders must bravely step forward to apologize to the public for their disastrous mistakes in planning and enforcement in the past. This apology is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to a noble sportsmanship spirit, knowing when one is wrong and being determined to make amends. As you can see, the remedy is not out of reach. It lies right in the will and sincerity of those who hold the scales of justice. If all these urgent solutions are implemented synchronously and fiercely, we absolutely have the right to hope for a brilliantly successful World Cup this year, where the round ball truly carries the message of peace and solidarity, where every local citizen proudly opens their arms to welcome international friends, and football once again returns to its truest, sacred, and purest nature. We will salvage this massive festival with the very power of the deepest understanding and tolerance. My friends, our shocking news bulletin today has peeled back the absolute thorniest truth behind the glamorous shell of the 2026 World Cup. From the moments of shock before the fiercely erupting fire of outrage, walking through the lingering historical pains, buried deep thoroughly, understanding the intense cultural conflicts until the moment we together find the redeeming light at the end of the dark tunnel. This highly dramatic story is not merely a regular sports bulletin like any other, but it is the most profound and forceful alarm bell sent to the entire modern football world. The king of sports must serve the people and not strip away their peaceful lives. Change towards a better direction is never too late, as long as those responsible know how to act with a bright mind and extraordinary courage. I firmly believe that after the brutal storm, the sky will brighten again, and the massive power of football will find a way to heal all wounds, reconnecting all broken hearts across the globe. Thank you for patiently accompanying me to the very end of this cruel truth. To never miss any upcoming dramatic developments in the colorful sports world, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. Your enthusiastic support is the invaluable motivation that helps us continuously bring the most fiery, in-depth, and emotionally explosive sports news bulletins. See you again in our next videos with countless shocking events waiting for us to discover.